All right, April 9th, 2026.
Time flies, eh?
It does fly. This is the Gravity Weekly live stream with us, the Rogue Traders. You can check us out at roguetraders.live. So we have a little bit of stuff to talk about. It's starting to look, I think, a little bit more positive in the Bitcoin world. I think we're starting to see some upward strength, and there's still a lot of volatility, a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. It's still a completely news-driven environment, but at least there's some green shoots coming out. So let's here. Let me just share my screen as per usual, and we'll get started. I'll just quickly review where we're at. Down here, I don't know if you can see this here. That's as big as anything yet. We've had this Bitcoin position for a little while now. You can see you had an order. This is our average price down here at around 67. Did I have orders? Yes, I had orders down lower here, but they didn't get filled. So, since last week, we've just not really done much except move up a little bit. You can see that position. It's not big. It's worth about $500 right now. I have an order to sell some at just under 74, and then another order to sell some just under 80,000 if we get up there. And then I'll have a little bit left if we want to make a ridiculous move up into the mid 80s or 90 or something. When that happens, if that happens, then I'll place buy orders underneath and all that good stuff. But that's how I'm playing it. We still have our PAX G long gold. It's basically flat. It was quite a ways for us, then it went quite a ways against us, and now it's basically at our price here. You can look at the PAX G chart. And there it's exactly at our price right now, which is kind of weird.
It's a shame we didn't buy in at the bottom.
Well, I was buying. Our average price is way up there.
You're averaging.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing, the thing up our backside a little bit is this Tesla trade. It's a few $100 against us, and that was just that was a mistake. That was a real shame that happened, because actually what happened was somewhere up here, I bought and then I sold at 401 or something, 402. Like, it was a fast trade. We made some good money, and then a week later, because I don't check this account every day, I check it once or twice a week. It plummeted down here, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Maybe we should, think about buying Tesla." And I could see we're long at 400 or 397. So somehow an order got stuck in there, or whatever. I didn't see it until a week later. So, it wasn't one of those things where, oh, I should have taken out when it was a loser. I had no idea I had the damn thing. I did average in a little bit, but we can see Tesla is really struggling. Yesterday the market had a big rally component.
Yeah.
Tesla went up a little bit and then right back down. And I'm actually wondering if, everybody knows the SpaceX IPO is coming up. If they're selling this ahead of that IPO to get people out, because everybody anticipates Tesla going up with a SpaceX IPO. That's sort of the general consensus. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. So is this just some bullshit going on? People selling it, taking some profit. Maybe they're long from 200 or 300. And thinking they're going to buy back in before the, I don't know.
There's definitely some kind of consistent selling, isn't there? Sammy from our trading pit has been mentioning Teslas this morning.
Yeah.
He's starting to look out for any strange options flow.
Oops.
Yeah, we did, because we
that's ugly.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. I'm slightly long a Tesla position, but it's not in danger at the minute. But yeah, I think I might close that out.
If this wants to turn around and creep back up, our price isn't horrible. It's around 370. It's horrible. We're down $20 on it. But again, it was, it wasn't intentional. But here we are. We got it, so we got to deal with it. But yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I saw yesterday. So we got Intel on here, don't we? Isn't Intel one of them? Because Intel was so strong. Where is it?
There.
Oh yeah, there it is. All right. Boy, that was a monster yesterday. Hey, no matter what the market did, this thing went up and up and up. And I think this has to do with this is a SpaceX thing as well, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Intel got some kind of a deal to do something, or I can't even remember what it was, but it was the real standout yesterday. Copper is something that a lot of people are watching. I know in our trading rooms, a lot of talk about copper. We've got a lot of guys making a lot of good money in Glencore and some different plays, but again, it's a little hard to tell from these gravity charts because they don't go back very far, because they've just introduced these assets. So that's a little.
Yeah.
It doesn't really give us good information. Let's
But
be perfectly honest.
the long short of this is that we think that copper's in a secular bull market.
Yes. Yeah. Copper. I think a lot of people are playing that. And it was sort of the outside horse compared to the stars of the show, gold and silver, over the last few months. Copper was just sort of lurking in the background, but it might be a real long-term winner. And of course, it's so valuable for so many industrial processes and in such demand. All right, so here we are. We've got Bitcoin. When was last? What's the date? It's the 9th, right? So that was what, the 2nd was our last. Where are we? Right around here. So we were just hanging around 66, 67 last time. And look, we've had it move up to, 70, kind of pull back, another move up. Hey, well, it's looking pretty good. We've got some, this resistance up here, which you'd expect, mid 70s. It's a round number. So if it gets up there, will it just blast through it? Well, it could, but I wouldn't be surprised if we just kind of kept this pattern going up, down, up, down, up, down. But we know Bitcoin can get real violent. It can move 10% in a week. Easy peasy, and it does it all the time. So I think from my perspective, I just want to play the long side. I'm just going to buy the dips. I'm not going to short it right now for any particular reason. I'm comfortable buying up until the mid to low 60s. If it wants to break 60, okay, we got a different animal. Maybe I would flip short. I'm not sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if, by June or something, we touch 90 or something crazy. I mean, I don't know if it'll go that high. I think that would be a real wow. But 80, I think that's quite doable. I really do.
So so interestingly, our Fair Capital bot is currently long Bitcoin. It's reading that from the options market. Strategy bought some Bitcoin this week. And there was the rumor that the Iranians are going to charge for passage in the Strait of Hormuz in Bitcoin.
Oh, they're going to charge him. I didn't hear
that. That's that was on Twitter last night.
It was like $2 million a ship or something. What?
So the thing is, I think it's very difficult to get good information out of the Middle East at the moment because there's massive censorship and terrible reporting. But that's kind of the narrative of the day. But it's been interesting. We've had a volatile week in the stock market, and Bitcoin has proven to be the more resilient asset, right? So,
yeah, it has. I mean, it's certainly had its fair share of quick moves, but overall, I mean, it didn't look. I mean, this is where we were last week,
trending up, right?
The week before and week before, so it's kind of hanging out in its range here. Really, it's. So I think kudos to Bitcoin in that regard. Let's take a quick look at the immersive first, the data. So we just brought this up, and right away I saw that the blue is the Bitcoin price, and the orange, red lines are the volatility. And we've got a bit of a divergence going on.
Yeah.
Of all dropping. And I did notice that the equity has gone up in some of the options accounts. If you're selling options, then your equity is going to go up when vol drops, which is nice as a vol seller. But that's kind of interesting, So it's kind of acting like a traditional market where prices go up, vol drops.
Yeah, it's been doing that for the past 18 months. The first 5 years of Bitcoin's life, the divergence was the opposite. So market up, it would be vol up, because people were terrified of the God candle. But now they're terrified of the big red hell candle.
Yeah. Bitcoin to 35,000 or something crazy, which was really a topic of conversation when it dropped from 90, 100 down to 60s. People are thinking, well, why not? Why not go another
exactly
20, 30
because suddenly the conversation becomes, where's the intrinsic value?
And then Twitter blows up with people saying, oh, Bitcoin 5,000, and
then it's time to buy.
Jeez Louise.
So and so the volatility structure has been interesting. So we've been following the risk reversals at 10 delta and 25 delta. I think last week we were like minus 8%.
-8, -9
on the 25.
Sorry, the 25 fly.
Yeah, sorry, delta risk reversals.
Oh, the risk reversals. Yes.
So so we're now about half as bearish as we were last week in terms of the difference between pricing of puts and calls. So this, given the structure of the Bitcoin market, this is actually almost looking like a bullish market now.
But I think last week the 10 delta risk reversals were around 9%. So it's dropped, wasn't it?
No, about minus 15 last week, 20 the week before. So they've been coming. They're less bearish. So the 10 delta risk reversal measures your fear of a massive dislocation down or up, and so there was a fear of a dislocation down, but that's entirely normal in every market
Yep.
that's mature. But at minus 10% is not massive fear. And then the flies, the 25 fly, and that describes the curvature of the vol surface or the smile, and that describes our concern around how quickly the market's going to accelerate in any one direction if it does start to move. And these numbers are pretty low. So but basically the market's saying that it's just ranging, right? With a small downside protection bias.
Yeah. Okay.
And then at the money, ATMF at the money forward vol, 40%. Last week was 50.
Yeah.
So vols decreased by 20% in nominal terms.
And here we can see those vols last week, and we can see how much they've fallen off and up and then down again.
But you notice the correlation. Whenever there's a down move in Bitcoin price, the blue line, you get a corresponding spike up in vol, and then it immediately sells off afterwards. So it's behaving just like the Nasdaq. Now it's basically a proxy of the Nasdaq in many ways.
Yep. We can see the funding rate right now happens to be 0.
Yeah.
The 8-hour funding rate. Now that changes quickly.
So then that tells us that there's no systemic need to massively hedge short calls by market makers. So it's not like anyone's super long calls or super long puts. So the market's, I guess, thin, fairly neutral. There's no opinion in this market, in my view.
So if we go back to our strategy, thinking, okay, well, here's Bitcoin. We're hanging out in the low 70s, 70, 71 right now. And I've told you what I'm looking for. Let's take a look at the liquidation heat map, because that's going to help us think, all right, well, where are we going to maybe get hung up? Or is it where's that liquidity they have to punch through? And on the 24-hour here, we can see we've got liquidity around 73,000.
Interesting.
A little bit, let's say 40, 50,000 or million, sorry.
You can
60 million.
You can see that people sold so basically what happened, people sold that peak, and they got short at that peak, and then they're basically still short.
And punched liquidity, range, and not a lot down below right now. I mean, nothing crazy. This is just 24 hours.
What's the numbers in the yellow? How big are they?
Well, we've got a 40 million, 15 million, 50 million.
Nothing.
So
right, it's nothing. Right. We might liquidity hunt, but there's no massive attractor, right?
And again, that's just a 24-hour chart, which isn't. We're not going to bet the farm on that. Here's a 3-day. Pretty similar, but not much up there. It's just a little bit at 70, a little bit at 73. So, to think it go up and punch this and come down and punch that again, and it could do that. Perfectly reasonable thing to think it'll happen. Let's take a look at the 1 week, then we'll look at like a 2 week, and then a 1 month, and then we'll be done. So 1 week tells a little different story. We still got a big knot down here, which is about 100 million, which isn't huge, but that's at 66. I think that we have orders. Do we have orders? That's my average price. So,
okay.
Hey, we're exactly average. Oh boy.
So you got long with everybody else.
Yeah, except I did it. I scaled into
Right.
those, but I didn't just jump into one position there. I was hoping to get more down 63, but that didn't work. So and a lot of people are in the same boat as us, which
It's concerning,
is
right?
problematic.
Yeah.
Because are they going to punch that to cause us a problem? Maybe, right? But that's not a ton of liquidity, but it is a thinner market. So let's just take a look.
This may come into play with the geopolitical, which I'll come into later.
Oh, okay. We'll just take a look at the 1 month, and then we'll get rid of the liquidity heat map. 1 month is interesting. Not so much down there, so maybe we don't have to worry about it as much. It's more up around 75.
Interesting.
It's 135 million at that particular spot. So we can say there's a couple hundred million in that area, 75 to 76.
So everyone who got short on the 17th of March, basically, stayed short.
Yeah, and this is a month out. So in a week or two, a lot of these people, if the price stays down here, they're going to close these positions. If they've got 50% profit or 20% or 80%, whatever they happen to have, they might close those out and reduce risk. So this number could get smaller, and it could get less of a problem. But I think steady as she goes. I'm not surprised if we punch up to mid 70s in a relatively short period of time, especially if the market makes a run, and it could, because today Trump could come out and say, "Oh yeah, we've made total peace with Iran, everything's great. We've got contracts to rebuild their country. Blackwater and Palantir, we're all going to be rich." And there we go.
Yeah, and then next day he'll change his mind.
Just a game, just a big game. It's just a big game.
So so in terms of the geopolitical, which I think has been driving a lot of moves, maybe not in Bitcoin so much, but in other markets, I think it does reflect in Bitcoin. So we've now got a situation where the US played a game of brinkmanship and were threatening to essentially carpet bomb the whole of Iranian civilization and erase it.
Yes.
And then suddenly we get this 10-point plan out of Iran and some kind of ceasefire deal, which Israel apparently weren't consulted on and didn't stop bombing, and so Iran continued to bomb them. Iran specifically wanted the Lebanon included in the ceasefire deal. It turns out that the Pakistani translators omitted that part, or the Americans are claiming that they omitted that part when translating it. The Pakistanis are adamant that they included it. So
we'll never know.
So this ceasefire that was supposed to last 2 weeks basically lasted 30 seconds.
A few hours. Yeah. I was also reading some reports that the Chinese might have been behind trying to push Iran into a peace deal, and that makes sense too.
China have just had their oil pipeline bombed.
That's right.
Coming out of Iran. So
the Saudi one, the big one, right?
They're going the other way from Iran towards China.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting my news reports mixed up. I didn't know that the Chinese pipeline was bombed.
Yeah, by the Americans or the Israelis. I'm not sure who. I'm not sure it matters. So that's essentially the war has now landed on China's doorstep, and they're within their rights to retaliate or engage if they want to. Plus, you're absolutely right. The Iranians bombed the pipeline going across Saudi Arabia, which is the alternate to the Straits of Hormuz, which is a very wise move if you want to maintain control and leverage. And I'm also reading this morning that there are internal divisions in Iran about whether there are hardliners who want to annihilate Israel and don't feel they're going to be safe until they do. And then there are more moderates who want some kind of deal to happen with guarantees, etc. Now, Twitter is describing this as deep divisions within the Iranian regime, but deep divisions within the regime is exactly how I describe the US right now as well.
Every political structure seems to be that way. So
because we seem to have a frankly.
It's bipolar. Everything is bipolar. It's just one side or the other.
Well, the US government right now, to me, or the US ruling sort of faction within the government seems to either regime they either seem to be demonically possessed or insane. That's how it appears to me.
Yeah. All us normies can't figure it out, right? If we're normies.
So how's that going to affect the markets? Well, I think yesterday the S&P and Nasdaq defied belief and pretended that the ceasefire had held in terms of its pricing, because it all went up. Oil went down, again, pretending that the war is over and the ceasefire holds. So interesting to see how long that fiction will last, because clearly it didn't hold. So we saw oil start to drift up and stocks start to drift down. And in fact, I reversed. So prior to yesterday, I was long oil, short S&P, and other way around. I short oil, long S&P, and then yesterday I took profits from that and then went long oil, short S&P, because I think this is my neck on the block. I think that the market will come to terms with itself and realise that this is a lie. So we should sell off. But we're also going into earnings season, and we're also going into May. So we've had early April inflows into ETFs due to pensions and monthly subscriptions and so on. So now we're going to get to earnings, and now we'll get to the daily reckoning of what things really worth, and then we go into summertime, May, and then the old adage said it's sell in May and go away, right? Yeah,
and there's going to be a lot of pressure on the U.S. to get oil prices down before the summer. That's the big, vacation traveling season, and it's always, every year it's always a big issue and news about the price of gas always goes up in summer because gouging, and it's going to be important for them.
And actually, on that subject, I think last week was the weeks where the last tankers whoever left the Straits of Hormuz arrived in Europe. So that's so.
Well, there's still been some tankers going through. Periodically, right?
There are some who've paid to go through. I mean, we're talking 10% or less of the normal traffic. But But the thing is, there's a massive air gap in the oil sort of transport pipeline.
Sure,
So 'cause it takes a ship a month to get to Europe from Hormuz, and so the last oil for the next month has arrived, and there is no more
yeah,
for at least another month.
yeah. I see.
So we're not thinking. Well, there may be another price shock, but there's also going to be a supply shock,
Yeah,
and that might be more serious than the price shock because that
Could be.
affects all kinds of other downstream industries.
and even if there's not, they can manufacture it. I remember in the 1970s, there's the big oil thing. They just parked the tankers off the coast so nobody could see them, and just said there was a shortage, but there actually wasn't. So now it's a little different. Now we can track things, but they can manipulate. Whatever. If they want to engineer a shortage, they're going to engineer a shortage.
Yeah.
So whatever. Hey, just quickly, I'll say something because I didn't notice. I thought when you were talking about oil, I thought, oh, maybe we can trade some oil here. But Gravity does not yet have any oil listings I can see. I was looking maybe under ETFs like USO, things like that. But if you come into Gravity and you just check out the little box here where you can put the asset in, you want to look at Bitcoin or whatever, you can go to all level one, assets, level two, DeFi, AI, meme stocks, ETFs, blah 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 blah. But if you look at these new listings, look, they got Japan and they got Korea.
Oh, Korea! Wow.
Which is cool. They got PayPal, they got Based, Edge, which I think is new. Like that's EdgeX, right? If I'm not, or Edge A.
Don't even know. 50x. Wow.
This thing, well, Edge is I'm, and again, I don't know, but I assume this is Edge, which is the gateway. I mean, Edge has been a gateway for trading stocks for 30 years, right?
Okay.
So it's one of those things. I don't know what they're doing in the crypto space. I have no idea the stories behind it. I'm sure you guys know more about that because I don't follow every little crypto thing. They added Meta.
Interesting. Okay.
I think Google's been there for a while. Maybe not. No, that might be new.
Okay.
So I should. What I'll do is we'll check here every week just to see what new things they've added.
That's getting
which is pretty cool.
It's getting really good, right?
Yeah.
The Korea we love because I mean, Korea, the whole of Korea trades like a meme stock.
Yeah, they're crazy, really. They're absolutely crazy. But Korea got beaten up a bit. It made a pretty big recovery. Again, it's unfortunate we can't see the whole picture here because it tells a different story. But hey, if you're into that and you want to start following it, that's pretty cool. You can do that. Same thing with Japan, which I don't really pay attention to that much with Japan.
So I'm hearing
that looks the same chart. What the hell?
I'm hearing a lot of bullish things about Japan.
Oh.
So I read that the Japanese stock market are now trying to pressure listed companies into buying back stock because they're all trading at ridiculously low multiples of earnings.
Mhm.
And I think it's just because Japan's been in recession for the past 40 years or something, in stagnation for the past 40 years, people have lost the buzz that they had in the 80s. I mean, Japanese stocks in the 80s were super hot.
Sure.
And so I think Japanese investors have become super conservative about investing in their own companies, but they're now trading at extremely attractive valuations, with great earnings and huge dividends, and so the Japanese stock market is trying to get them to promote increases in the stock price by doing buybacks.
Sure.
So it feels, I mean, it's, by no means a sure thing, but it feels like an interesting play, right, to get involved.
Yeah. So now, if you're on board with Richard and you kind of agree with him, at least now you have. I was just checking out the price of this the Korea, which is 135 versus Japan, which was what 80 or 60 or something. Just not that matters. Just look at the USD valuation. Cool. And again, I don't know what there's not a lot in Korea in terms of kind of blue chip things you can invest in. They've just got really a small handful of things. So it's not like there's hundreds of.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think so. I shouldn't say that exactly. Well,
you probably just
I know
offended half our audience now.
Well. I mean, it's Korea. They've just got a handful of heavy industry, big companies, but it's not like the Nasdaq or the Russell where you've got thousands of freaking stocks, right?
Yeah.
Japan is kind of similar too. I don't know. What I should do is I should have done a bit of research. Then again, I didn't know this was on here. This is new. So how many are actually in the Japanese index here, and how many are in the Korean? Because I know sometimes we got some of our guys on our live show trading Korea. They've made some good money on Korea,
Yeah.
but they're like, well, why should I buy the fund when I should just buy one or two of these stocks individually? Because they're really driving the whole fund. But I don't want to talk out of turn because I don't actually know, except hearsay right now. So let me go back to where's my favorites? There's Bitcoin. All right, what time is it? Yeah, we're almost done.
Yeah.
So trading strategy this week, hey, I think we're just going to stay long. We're long at 66, 67,000. Fine. I'm just going to wait. I think that we've got a really good chance of either grinding up through the 70s or maybe even having an explosive move up into the mid to high 70s. If that happens, I do have some options accounts. I've got some short options, maybe around 77, around that, expiring end of this month. I probably have some maybe even in May, although they might be up in the 80s. Once that delta gets a little bit high, I will adjust those and I'll throw some onto the put side. I'll move some out in the future, and I'll move some up the ladder with the same expiry.
You've got me thinking now. I've got some short calls that are about 72, and I probably should move them away. Now that vol's low, I might as well take advantage of that and get it out of the way. Right.
Well, if you've got 72 deltas or 72,000, that'd be about a 50 delta because that's about the price, right?
Yeah.
So you don't normally roll when you get to like 30 or a 40 delta?
I do. I like to roll, particularly if the vol's low. If the vol's high, I'll leave them. But if the vol's low, there's no benefit in keeping them. I may as well just roll them to a higher strike somewhere else.
For higher volatility. Yeah. Although, if we look at, and sometimes you want to be strategic, but you never know what's going to happen. When you get vol low, that's not really the time to sell. So, what Richard's saying is he's going to hunt for something in the future that's higher, right? Ideally you wait for this to spike up and then you can sell short and longer term at a higher price. But you got to time it, right?
Look at the term structure under the ATMF. You see that the shorter dates are actually lower vol than the longer dates. Sure. Now, this is actually extremely normal for any market, but in fact, that hasn't been the case for the past year in Bitcoin. So actually, now is a good time statistically to be buying the short-term calls and puts and selling the long-term calls and puts.
Yep. So and here what Richard's saying, like 1 week at the money forward, we're talking about 41% basically. Yeah. But if we look at 6 months, that's 46%. So, you're getting 5% more bang for your buck by being 6 months out.
Yeah.
All right. Any final things you want to add? You got any strategy stuff going on here?
No, I think it's the same really. I know I'm getting long oil. I'm getting short stocks because I don't, the S&P.
Oh boy, you're brave.
Yeah, I'm super short holiday stocks. I shorted Booking.com yesterday.
Booking.com.
Because I figure, given that there's a war on and there's no oil and everyone's going to be out of a job because of AI and no one's got any fuel anyway, so.
Well, and if gas prices or fuel prices go through the roof and nobody can afford to fly or drive, then Booking.com should go down. But you trade the weirdest things, Duolingo and all kinds of stuff.
No, I'm still long Duolingo. So that's punishing me. But I'm selling call.
I hate that.
Do you?
I hate it.
My wife loves it, and all the women love it. So I think it's here to stay. But I'm selling calls against my position just to drag in cash, and pretty much on all my stocks, I'm holding stock and then selling calls against them to drag in more cash. And I'm trying to sell 2 lots of calls or 3 for each 1 unit of stock I'm holding. But I'm covering that. I'm using call spreads, and I'm being quite aggressive to try and drag in cash because I think there's going to be some opportunities, and I want some cash on the book.
Gotcha.
And I think it's going to take a while before stocks recover. I think we get into a golden age once the war stops, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, right?
Yeah. Okay. And if you need some type of translation on what he's talking about, well, you're going to have to join the roguetraders.live.
Yeah, join us and listen to us trade. We trade live, and we've got a trading pit that trades live every day with experienced traders, not just Shane and myself, but also Wayne and Sammy and some other guys. And you get the benefit of time-served professionals who are trading real stock, and all these guys, all their money is made by trading, and it has been for 30 years.
Yeah,
and they consistently make good money and live good lives from it.
And we trade everything, cryptos, commodities, futures, stocks, options, bonds, you name it. If there's an opportunity, we'll try and
We should start trading on Gravity too because everything's here, right? Hey?
Yeah. Gravity is becoming a real viable thing. It started off as just crypto, and we're still waiting for options, which will be cool. I'm sure they're working on it, but we can see obviously they're doing lots of work in the background by adding all these tokenized assets. So cool stuff. I think that's it for this week. Steady as she goes, looking pretty positive in Bitcoin land for those Bitcoiners. And let's just see if we can actually get that move up into the 70s that I'm anticipating. If we can lighten up our position, and hey, what we're going to do, we're going to buy pullbacks. That's what we're going to do for now.
Yeah.
All right. That's it.
That's it. Good.
Okay. Until next week.
178 stocks in the Japanese index.
100. How many in the Korean?
Jeez.
Next week. All the Koreans are like, how can you not know this? All right. We'll catch you next week, everyone.
Thank you.